What's up, guys? You know what night it is? Wednesday night off-centered with Dustin. The hold up, I'm almost there. I just got to get a drink, and now I don't know what he's doing. Personal finance dad / sports car dad. And tonight we have a very special guest. Oh, there you are. There you are.
Oof, oof. How we doing?
What took you so long to get a glass of water? Putting on your
I just saw the
Abercrombie.
email. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna go to the restroom. I'm just gonna go ahead and go, so I'm not, like halfway through. So yeah, I'm here.
So yeah, but the fun is doing it halfway through, so people get to guess how far in the live stream you can go until your bladder's about to explode. So you really took away a game that we could have played. Anyway, great seeing you all in the comments section. We'll shout you out in a second, but we are happy to have T-Pott, aka Tyler Nethercott, on our show. He's going to be talking about the state of the hobby, what he's seeing in the data, where he believes we are now compared to 6 months ago, and then where we may be in another 6 months or years time based on what he is seeing and the conversations that him and the others at Sports Card Investor are having with different aspects, different companies and people within the hobby. So definitely excited about that. Dustin, you and I have got to catch up as well because we're now doing this show every 2 weeks. I feel like that's a good amount to get to cover the news and to catch up with y'all. So before we catch up, I just want to shout out a couple people here. Great to see Troy Peterson in the house, Brian Sherlin, aka Helix Band. We were talking about the divorce right before the show, if that's going to happen, and I really hope it's not. What are your thoughts, Dustin?
Well, now I feel I'm in a really weird spot because the one player I have the most cards of is Tom Brady. So, and then I was telling Brad, I was at the Saints-Bucks game in New Orleans a couple of weeks ago. I had too many drinks after the game and I was being heckled by some Bucks fans. And I was yelling at them like, hey, you guys got this win, but it just cost him his marriage and $200 million. Obviously, I'd had too much to drink. And now it looks like that might be something that happens. So I don't know how I feel about it. Frankly, I mean, like I said, I have a lot of Tom Brady cards. I respect the guy. He plays in my division, so I can't be happy about Tom Brady playing football, but at the same time, I don't wish a divorce on anybody, not even Tom Brady. So there we go.
Yeah, and for one, I hope it doesn't happen. And I was telling Dustin, I said, one of the things I like about Tom Brady is that I can look at him and admire him and feel like he has a lot going on outside of the game. He's not one of these athletes that is a horrible person or is unhealthy or has all these like vices or things. He's a guy that I could say, oh man, looks like he has a good, healthy life, good businessman, good family, good, just overall, like he's winning in a lot of areas. And so it's more of just like a personal damper if he were to get a divorce. On the flip side, there's an account on Instagram. Shout out to Kevin Flynn, who runs Florida Man, who makes the funniest memes regarding Tom Brady getting a divorce because he's a big Bucks fan. He went to the same college as me. So really funny memes. But, if the downside is that Tom plays for another 4 years for the Bucks, I guess I'll take that as a consolation. But I really do hope that it's not true and they're having maybe just a downturn in their relationship and that'll be okay. But we won't talk.
What's interesting with him is he going to go out on top? Is he going to go out at a high level, where he's still playing elite football? Or is he going to do kind of like what a lot of guys do and they just kind of play beyond that? They're just they love the game. So it's hard to quit, so I think that's going to be interesting.
I think if he retires when Jordan retired after the Wizards, where it's just like, all right, as long as he can be like an average starter, I think like retire when you're an average starter, where there's 14 starters better than you, 14 that are worse. If that's your lowest, it's like, okay, that's when you could walk away because he could probably be 50 on a stacked team and just be an average starter at that point. But anyway, we're getting ahead of ourselves. Great to see you, Mike C. Philly Joe, awesome to see you as well. Hope you're doing well.
We should wrap that into like who we're targeting right now. I know, I don't know about you, but I can talk to that if you want to get into that as well. But anyway, go ahead.
Who you're targeting?
Yeah, just kind of like whose cards, because I think it kind of ties in well with this, what we're talking about.
Awesome. Well, we will. Troy, great to see you. I know this is like the 9th comment I've put up, but great that you can join us live. Brendan Ryan in the house. Yep, we'll have T-Pott on in a second. Great to see you. Card Vibe is in the house. Chris K. A lot of cool new faces. My Bucks fan right here, Michael Ham. Even though we're 2-2, losing 2 games to Patrick Mahomes and Aaron Rodgers, and then Tom Brady perhaps going through a divorce, 2-2 through 4 games with those 2 losses is not the worst thing in the world.
They have an easier schedule coming up too.
Yeah, exactly. Watchful eye. Great to see you as well. Some newbies in here. And yeah, seriously, just one more ring, right? And Brian Sherlin, last one. I wanted him to play in Dustin's division and terrorize Mr. Sloth.
I saw the one meme I actually laughed out loud at, or a comment on Twitter or something is like, Giselle's going to take half. So technically Tom's got 3.5 rings.
But then he has more motivation to stay until he's like 60.
That revenge tour is going to be wicked.
Yeah. What's up with you besides that? We know you went to the Saints game. There's some football going on.
I've been going to a lot of games. Yeah, I mean, I went. So yeah, opening weekend, obviously they played the Falcons. Didn't go to that one. It was in Atlanta. I went to the Carolina game that was against the Panthers in Charlotte. It's right down the road from me. And then I went to New Orleans for the Bucks game. What was the other one? That's only 3. There's one more. We lost another one. I'm trying to think of who that is.
So you're bad luck. If you go to a game, the Saints just lose. Is that pretty much it?
Sounds like it. Yeah, maybe I shouldn't go to any games. Yeah,
I think you should go to them all. I think we should buy. If you're a Bucks fan out there that wants to buy season tickets for Dustin and the Saints, please, we'll Venmo that to you so you can go to every Saints game. So they'll at least be 0-8 at home.
Yeah. No, I mean, I've got 4 kids, so it's just been crazy busy with home stuff. My son is gearing up for varsity basketball tryouts, and he's got baseball after basketball. So we've been busy with that. And then, my youngest is in Code Ninjas, which he's learning how to code video games. He's 7. And then my daughters are doing all sorts of stuff too. So it's a wild time. It's a wild time, but yeah, all's good. How about you? How's the dating scene? Anything new? I keep seeing on IG, it's just pictures of glasses of it's like pizza and martinis. Oh,
hey, cool. That's how you tease them, because they don't know who you're with. They just know that you're somewhere bougie. But I will say, I will say this before we bring Tyler on. I matched with a girl on Bumble over a year ago. This was about June of last year. I was seeing someone briefly, and then she started seeing someone for about 9-10 months. And a couple of weeks ago, I messaged her on Instagram. I commented on a post she had about a restaurant right down the street, one that I actually went to with Jeff Wilson and his wife when they were in town. That's a 5-minute walk. And I said, I love this restaurant. I'm a 5-minute walk away. She said, let's do dinner sometime, even just as friends. It's okay. And she's Colombian, so her English isn't perfect, but I think she was assuming I was seeing someone still, and I wasn't sure if she was seeing someone. So it was kind of like, hey, let's just meet up as friends. One of the best dates of my life. Incredible dinner. We went to this Mexican place. That's a really nice scene. And then she invited me to this reggaeton club, which I'm like, if this footage gets out there of me dancing, I'm just destroyed. But I had a great time dancing with her. Stayed out till about 2 a.m. She went home, I went home, but just amazing date. And then we had another great date Friday. So fingers crossed that we'll have another amazing date this weekend as well. She's entertaining some family friends, so I don't know if it's going to happen this week. But
I assume you had relations or you had physical touch on the second date. I'm just going to assume that.
Yeah, a bit. Yeah. Oh no, even the first date.
I did. I can tell. I
will say, look, when a beautiful Colombian woman invites you to a reggaeton club, even if you don't want to dance, even if you're nervous, when that's your dance partner, you say yes. So that's
absolutely. Yeah.
That's what I'm that's what I'm putting out. Okay, hard pivot.
Yeah, let's
bring on T-Pott.
T-Pott's already left. Let's go. He's like, what the hell am I doing here?
See, y'all are married. Y'all are married to
like doing the reggae dance over here.
Oh, dude.
T-Pott's in a spaceship somewhere.
Yeah, dude. Seriously. All right. Well, is this your new studio, or is this just a background? Or what's going on, man? You have like the most ridiculous setup.
Is that made out of crystal? Is that X made out of crystal behind you?
I can't confirm or deny that.
Are you in the movie Tron? Tron Legacy?
That would be sweet. I'm listening to everybody talking about being busy, and my wife and I just had our 4th baby in 6 years, and we are getting ready to move for the 8th time in 8 years. Which is insane. So I completely relate to the busyness, and we're starting to pack again. And anyway, we're staying in Atlanta, but moving closer to the office, and just this house unfortunately didn't work out. So next up, But
you're like, so that I can sleep in the office, so that you can just wake up, just sleep on the couch. You're already there.
So speaking of the studio, we never did recreate the epic studio I had in my old house down here yet, because we knew we were going to try to move. So maybe in the new house, we'll get something a little more lightweight set up with the cool glowing market movers in the background. For now, I'm in a location undisclosed.
So I'm really glad I'm single right now, based on the stories that you're telling.
This is all good stuff.
It's good. It's good.
Yeah.
But I'm like,
we're like, yeah, we have 4 kids. That 2 of them threw up on me today, and the other one I had to go pick them up from school. And Brad's like, oh man, I ordered my Starbucks at 128 degrees, and would you know it? It was 100. Ridiculous.
They ran out of almond milk. I had to have.
My day was ruined.
I had to have 2%. It was the worst thing. No, but I was trying to do my 3rd hour-long meditation of the day, and the damn weed whacker guy outside was ruining it for me. Anyway,
I see the comments trickling, and they're not wrong.
But yeah, good for you, man. Very fertile, very filled with vitality.
Yes.
Okay. Speaking of which, what's been up with you, man? I think we had you on probably 6 to 8 months ago, something like that.
Sounds about right. I'm terrible at time estimation.
Yeah, last time we did that, it was like 6 months, and it was like a year and a half with a guest. Like, oh, all right, well, yeah, it's been a while though, for sure.
And are you the same position with Sports Card Investor as before, or has anything changed regarding what you're doing?
So some of what's changed is just that our team has continued to grow. We have more permanent team members. My side of the company, which is our product development side, has continued to grow. And so we continue to bulk up our dev team and marketing research and data contractors and other things. So that's all been really exciting. I still have the same position, which is our VP of product development. So Kelly is my counterpart, who oversees all of our content and production. And that team is best in class. And so we're just trying to keep up with what they're doing.
So how many staff do you have? Just because I think the last number I heard was something around 30, which if you think of a sports card company that is not selling cards, that is not grading cards.
There's manufacturers with less employees.
Yeah. It's like, you're not grading, you're not manufacturing, you're like a tech and media company. But the idea of a niche of something like as small as cards is, in the grand scheme of things, 30 was crazy. Where are you guys at now?
That's about where we're at right now. Yeah. And
who did you fire? Who was the worst that got fired? I'm just kidding.
No comments on any of that. No, I mean, we're around 30-ish. And people, a lot of times, if you haven't worked in software development, most people don't really understand how much effort that takes. It's really complicated to build an app, and if you just have like one basic harebrained idea that doesn't go anywhere and you need a basic mobile app, even that can cost you like tens of thousands of dollars to develop, just if you really want it to be functional. Got all your hosting expenses and everything else. But yeah, you need a lot of expertise. You need people take time off, and you got to keep the ball moving. And so it takes a lot to organize and orchestrate and design and test. And obviously our launch of the new version of Market Movers, completely reskinned, that was about 4 months in the making of like really, really aggressive work by an entire team of people, and incredibly proud of that product. I think it's a much improved version of Market Movers, and I'm really excited about it.
Walk us through that part, because I know the UI is different. I've seen the UI, but what are kind of the big differences or improvements? Kind of what are the, some add-ons there?
Yeah. So as we've gotten feedback over the last couple of years about Market Movers, the things outside of just get more cards in the database, which has been a huge part of our focus, is like around the user experience. I don't really understand what I'm doing. Where am I clicking? Whatever. And as that product was built with like a very short runway, when Jeff initially launched it in February of 2020, he was just trying to get something basic out that he thought maybe it'll be useful to some people. I can use it for the videos that I'm making. A couple hundred cards in there. Yeah, there it is. And then, it kind of took off. And so it was like, well, we had sort of this shell of a product, and the use of spacing wasn't really good. I can even kind of do a side-by-side, Brad, to kind of show too, because everybody's seen it, the old version, but the layout and everything wasn't quite there. A big a big part of
do you want to share your screen? You're welcome to share your screen.
Yeah, sure. A big part of the new version is like putting an emphasis back onto how cards are visual, right? So you're going to see all throughout the app. Like I'll take you over here, and I was going to talk about some of these guys. But if I go over to this, like I'm on price movements now. So here, and we sort of consolidated a lot of the navigation, and you can see my window, right?
Yep.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool. So if I come over to card, we added in a lot of flexibility to give you a data sortable view versus like just a visual gallery view. And you just navigate over here. I click on this, and all of a sudden I have all these cards. And you're like, wow, now I'm actually experiencing the cardboard, albeit digitally, but with some data in front of it. And then one of the cool things is like, if I come over here, you get this flip motion, you get some of the basic statistics. You can see what's happening with the card. You've got all the options here to go deeper. Click on this, and you can say, okay, what's happening with this card over the last 6, 12, 18 months, et cetera. And so that was a big thing. It was like, how do we make the navigation more streamlined? How do we put more emphasis on the visual nature of cards? It's about a lot more than the numbers. People make an emotional and nostalgic connection to the cards themselves and how they look. And we wanted to make sure that was really pervasive throughout the entire application.
It's interesting about making it more visual. I remember when StarStock was one of the top platforms or up and coming platforms, the one thing that issue I had versus CompC is that CompC, you saw every single card, and I liked that. And with StarStock, you saw only the one card, but when you were buying a card, you didn't see the slabs of any of the cards that were graded. You didn't see the raw card itself. You had one image. And so, I mean, what would the card hobby be without the visual aspect? I mean, it's not an auditory thing. It's just straight up, here is the visual. It's not even touching it in a lot of cases, because sometimes it's in a slab. So it's not about the texture or anything. It's like, if you don't have the picture, then what do you have? So I like the simplicity of it. Obviously, we didn't just bring you on to talk about market movers, but something I've used for a while. It's definitely helped me avoid massive mistakes. And I wonder if like now it's like what, $10, starting at $10 a month or something, where before is what, 50? It was 25 and 50.
Yeah.
And was there a point where it's just 50? Wasn't there a point where it was
it wasn't just, at the beginning, at the beginning it was for a couple of months. It was like one membership level launched at $50. Yep.
And then now the market has changed so much. So before we talk about other things, what's the new goal for market movers per se? Because it looks like it's growing and growing, but the price is way different. Your offerings are way different. So what's the mindset behind the direction you're going in?
Yeah. So obviously it was rethinking the experience around the features that we already had. I thought we did a really good job building incrementally a lot of new functionality for the product. The next step is shoring up the foundation so that we can really scale. And the goal has always been to continue to get cards into the database. And that's a lot of my background between finance and data management. And that's what I'm really excited about, is getting us to the point where somebody comes to us and they don't say anymore, you don't have my card. One way or another, we'll have your card, and we'll have the metadata supporting it, and you can find it, you can track it in your collection. That's the goal between, I would say, now and next year sometime, right? And so that's when it makes a really, really incredible value proposition, to where it's not just a data tool. It's not just for investors. It's for people who want to do research. It's for people who want to explore every card that's out there, and they want to network and connect with people. There's a lot of different directions that we can go. So that's it kind of right now. Now that we launched the new version, is just doing some of the piping underneath, rebuilding the foundation, doing some database work and infrastructure work so that we can really keep going and scaling to the next level. And I want market movers. Our goal is that it's something that is so compelling that anybody who's participating in the hobby wants to use it and can afford to use it, no matter what level of collecting or speculating or investing that they're doing.
Very cool. Let's see here. There was a question. Maybe this is more about the overall sports card investor brand, which, I mean, you have 30 staff, you have every social media thing, every social media platform, a presence there and growing. You have this data tool. I remember the Shots, was it Shots app? Sorry, like I never got into that one. Hits,
Yeah.
my fault. Hits.
Yeah.
So there's different products and business ideas. What's on the horizon? Because it's like, I don't think it's all about just this tool or about media.
Yeah.
What else is being thought of and perhaps worked on now? Because, you know, the space that you guys are in is just like kind of creating value the way you see it, not like anything traditional with grading or manufacturing cards. So is there some other product or idea that you guys are working on now?
Yeah, I mean, I think what's really exciting, and coming from a large corporate environment to working in a startup environment like this, myself, Jeff, Kelly, and several of the members of both of our teams tend to be much more of that visionary possibility, creativity type than we are like the maintainer status quo, keep things the way they are types. And I think that's how you have to be when you're in a startup. Jeff is that way to the max. You want to say something?
You mean you're more Mint Collective than Industry Summit?
That's one way of putting it. That's one way of putting it. And there's some other comparisons I could make too, but I will keep it in check.
Please do share.
I love being in this environment. I love having that opportunity. Somebody else asked the question, watchful I asked, what's the best part of working for Jeff? And these things are very related. It's that we're in an environment where we're not only allowed to, but we are encouraged to be looking for the next big thing, where we want to continue to diversify revenue sources so that we can grow the company, so that we can employ more people. Obviously, you know, there's a lot of different accusations levied about this, that, and cash grab and whatever. It's like, we're a business that we're trying to add value to the hobby. This was all born out of Jeff recognizing one day, holy cow, the sports card industry is way behind in the tech space for where it's headed. And that's how he got rolling with his podcast. That's why he built Market Movers. And that's why we've continued to do what we're doing now. As far as like what's next, we have a lot of ideas. We have a lot of different things. We recently launched a completely free email that we're sending out that's also using our foundational data. It's called the Cards Under Comps email. You can also just access it through our website. And what it's doing is letting you sign up for sports or specific players that you're interested in. And it'll send you a daily or a weekly email of cards that are for sale on eBay priced below last sales comps. And it shows you the last price and then the last 30-day average. So if you're like targeting good deals on players or cards, that's a great way to identify and do things like that. The content team has some things cooking that I'm really excited about that I can't talk about, but I hope it's going to be really well received. It's something we're putting a lot of thought into and that we're going to be having another bigger kind of company deep dive into coming up soon. But it's something that I think will be very fun. And that's something, obviously, that side of the business especially is always looking for, bringing entertainment, bringing engagement, bringing a lot of fun. That's something we want to do more of, is actually engaging with the audience in addition to just the regular, obviously, high production quality content that's coming out.
Good stuff. Good stuff.
That was a whole lot of words to not tell you anything exactly about what.
Yeah.
So no upcoming plans. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You could have just said no, nothing. Nothing's on the horizon.
Before we came on, I know we were kind of talking about future of the hobby type stuff. So we wanted to, for you to kind of throw your hat in the ring, what you think that looks like, why it's Stranger Things cards. You can go ahead and explain why you think that is. No. But yeah, kind of talk a little bit about what you're seeing. Obviously you're diving into data through the tool every single day, and you're working for a startup in the space, and it's becoming more and more less of a startup. You guys are becoming more and more established, I would say, but you're looking at all this stuff day to day. So what's on your mind? Talk to us.
Let me kind of show you my screen. Yeah. And let me say this first, actually. We met last, we kind of talked about how the market had been going down. And obviously we were sort of coming out of, COVID restrictions and a lot of impact to the economy and things. Now we're seeing the continuation of all of that. And I think as painful as inflation is in this country, it's even worse in much of the rest of the world. Global inflation is in a really rough spot. And obviously this hobby, while being heavily concentrated into North America, certain aspects of it, certain sports definitely extend across the globe, especially into East Asia. And there's a lot of uncertainty in that space right now. I hate it. I work in an industry right now that's not only a startup, but is also sort of a hobby for discretionary income. And as you see the charts going down like this, that can be a little bit concerning, right? Like, are people going to stick with this? What's the reliability? That's a big reason why the content that I put out, especially on Market Movers, I try to make sure is very balanced. Like, sometimes I'm going to talk about collecting and cool inserts and case hits and things like that. Sometimes I'm going to be that like reality check voice that's like, the price of Mac Jones cards are too damn high, like, which is what I was saying last year. And now he like breaks his ankle and is not playing well. And I hate the idea of people over leveraging and losing tons of money through lack of education. So I got to read this. I'm so like squirrel brain when you throw these up, but his name that because when he's boiling hot with card ingenuity. Thank you. I think that's a compliment. Thank you.
You spew your knowledge everywhere, all over us.
On that Market Movers channel, when you're kind of doing your data dive, you do a really good job, I feel like, of disclaimers. I mean, you really kind of talk through it, I feel like, and more so than I think most. I think that you really do a good job with that.
And all you have to do is get hated on for about a year of pumping and dumping to finally like. And it's not even have disclaimers, it's to go above and beyond and have disclaimers about your disclaimers. On your disclaimers.
Yeah. And see the footnote in the comments for those disclaimers. Yeah, no, it's true. I mean, enough people, it grows. There's always going to be people, thanks, Ziggy. There's always going to be people like coming after you. And I'll be honest, I have a hard time not taking that personally. I am somebody who, I was voted most friendly in high school. I try to get along with people, to harmonize, to be a peacemaker. Like, that's really important to me. I know my intentions. I know they're good. I know my intentions are good. I know my peers and my company's intentions are good. And there's a lot of people who just don't agree with that. So I have to develop some thick skin and just kind of drown out the noise with that. Obviously hearing a lot of great feedback. The thing that really charges my batteries is when I get to go to card shows and I run into people, and it's just like, that's when you get face to face with somebody. You get to go out and have a drink or to go to trade night or whatever. And it's that's the hobby that we know and love. So as far as like where things are headed, I used the analogy earlier, but I think we've got things like X, like crossing in different directions. And we've got some things working in favor of the market, which is grading costs coming down significantly across the board with the companies, faster turnaround time. So people are able to get that back. That was a huge negative impact when PSA closed their doors. And also in that liquidity, the value proposition of ripping $1,000 box of Prism and hopefully getting back a portion if you can get a 10 just went out the window and people were getting crushed. I do worry about that sort of like idea of a junk slab era and what does that mean? And it's harder to store graded cards and all of these things. But that's a good thing overall for the hobby. I do think that, Fanatics taking over, everybody's sort of holding their breath. We're waiting. Many people were holding their breath this week at the industry summit, waiting. Is there an announcement about Panini? What's going to happen? What's going to happen with Prism and Optic and all these sets? I do think that something is going to happen there with that in terms of an acquisition. So those are good things, I think. And then I think just the general curation of content that's coming out is a good thing. But that global uncertainty with the economy is the part that I don't know. And so,
the thing that you nailed really is if you really look at kind of the hobby stuff going on, there's a ton of really positive things that really weren't there 3 years ago when the boom started. There's a lot of infrastructure that's here that was never here, that wasn't there 3 years ago. But yeah, you just have a totally different global economy environment right now, and that's coming in uncertainty. So
I'm very bullish. Yeah, there's just a ton of investor capital being pushed into this industry. And I'll say that's good in air quotes, because it just means there's some stability, that there's a lot of people with a vested interest in making sure that this hobby is here to stay in terms of the production and keeping people engaged, growing the number of people involved. The big question mark for a lot of people and a lot of diehard hobbyists who've been doing this a long time is, are you going to change my hobby? The thing that is my hobby that I love, that I want to, have had my press list for a long time, that's, I think it is going to change. I think technology is going to change things. I think Fanatics is going to shake things up. And there's going to be a lot of uncertainty with that. But overall, yes, the foundation is there, tons of money there, tons of people who are interested. And I think it's all really exciting.
Yeah. A couple things. When I was in 5th grade, I got voted nicest guy. and I didn't get any attention from females, so I made a very sharp turn the other direction in middle school and high school.
Smart move.
That just yeah, it worked out to my favor. A couple things here, Bishop 2344. I was going to ask to save this to the end because I've not seen the Logo Fractor tops. Have you seen that? You must have seen it. What's your thoughts on that? Because I've not even.
Yeah, I've seen it. Oh, you guys froze for me. Did I lose you?
It wasn't me, was it?
Did I freeze?
I froze. You all froze.
Well, we're good. We're good now. We're back.
Frozen. Yes, I have seen the Logo Fractor product. I think it looks nice. I saw one of the short print rookies that wasn't in the main product the way it should have been. I thought it looked pretty cool. I saw a lot of other people say they hate it and they don't like all the gaudiness of the background. Maybe you can find one and pull it up. But I'll say this. I personally am not a fan of all of these like sub products that are like predicated on a specific effect and doing different things. I just would rather have it in the product and have the product be more focused. Like gone are the days when we had like 10 good parallels and that was it. And they were different rarities and you sort of chased them within the product. Now you've got like 73 parallels in the main product. And then they make these offshoot products with more parallel backgrounds. It's like, I think it just makes it very confusing for the long term and people can't really intuit what is good and what isn't anymore. And that's kind of concerning to me.
Sorry, guys. My son is just getting home from slinging chicken. He works at Chick-fil-A. So I'm just going to go on mute while my dog barks. Go ahead.
Nice. Oh, wait. I thought you were going to just say, I got to eat dinner.
I got to go, guys. I got some chicken.
Wait. Knowing Dustin, he purposely got his son to get a job at Chick-fil-A just to hook him up with free chicken sandwiches and waffle fries.
I like his style.
Okay. All right. So what are you seeing in the data right now, right? You're looking at the data a lot. You're seeing trends, obviously. Every time I look at market movers, the one thing I do like is the amount of categories of cards keeps growing. It's not just boxing, swimming, and Pokemon. Now it's like almost, cricket and water polo. And, I'm exaggerating, but like the amount of different categories that weren't there 6 months or a year ago is insane. So obviously you're adding more of that, but what types of trends are you noticing right now?
So one of the best, I think, ways to kind of look at what's going on with the market overall is to use this market pulse feature in market movers. It's kind of an index look, right? And Parker on my team, who is the most dedicated data person I could ever ask for, I mean, he did his research and he went through and he looked up all the most iconic cards. PWCC has been running their top 100 iconic cards of all time. I mean, we're talking 500 cards. This is our own little S&P 500 of iconic cards. And it's a great way to track the market as a whole as it's changing and things are happening. So this is the last 6 months, roughly, let's say, since we spoke, and things are down 11.7%. Actually, so this is this is actually the better summary. So 12.8% in this time frame. And that's a lot. If I go back to the 6 months before that, it was down 10%. So I can actually look at almost the last full year for this index, down like 21.9% since it started. Obviously things have been trending in a downward direction. So there's a lot of question marks like, okay, what's going to happen? One of my favorite things to do is to look at this SCI 500 and get a baseline. That's a great way of seeing like what's sort of happening with the sort of most iconic cards overall. And then to jump over to price movements and hone in on specific sports or players that I'm interested in to see how they compare to the market, relative to that. So if I look at the last 6 months, 12.8% collectively on that overall SCI 500. And then I jump over and I threw in a handful of NBA players who are sort of key names, retired and present. And the only one who's up is Zion Williamson, partially because his prices came down so much last year because of the injury and the weight concerns and everything else. Now everybody's seeing him like having lost a bunch of weight, athletic, muscular, having a good preseason game. So he's up 8.5% in the last 180 days. Everybody else, starting out with Giannis, like right in line with that 12-ish% or less than that. And that's the part that's amazing to me is like, we saw such an incredible run up of basketball cards over the last 3 years, especially in that first, let's say like 2019 to halfway through late into 2020. And now you've got all these guys having just come down significantly. So if you're talking about like, where are you investing money? I think some of this is really healthy normalization, but I'm looking at guys like Kobe Bryant. I'm looking at guys like Steph Curry. I'm always looking at Jordan cards and saying, where can I get a discount? Because for the long term, I actually think these guys are some of the best holds because they have a proven legacy. Whereas some of the other, young guys that I could throw on here, some of the more recent rookies, they maybe make me a little bit more nervous because their prices are so pre-baked up front. So that's what I like to do. I look at basketball. I look at same thing with baseball and threw in some of those key young players and kind of what their prices are doing. I mean, it's just been like a crazy.
Wow, look at baseball. That's wild.
It's a bloodbath since the baseball season began for all of these big name young players who are some of the best and brightest young players. The 2021 season was this incredible ride of so many of these guys doing awesome. And this year you've had injuries, you've had the PED stuff, you've had just total disappointment with Juan Soto. And so you see these price crashes. So to me in baseball, I'm like, at least one or two of these guys is the future. So if I wanted to like recalibrate and kind of build like a diversified portfolio right now of some of these guys, I might wait another month, wait for the playoffs to be over. It might not be a bad time to just scoop like one or two key cards of each of these guys and sort of ride it out and see what happens. Because I just think statistically, one of them has got to be on the track to be like the best and brightest. Notably, not on here is Ohtani and Judge. Their prices are up. I left them off because they're doing fantastic. But this is what I think is so great about market movers. You get this big view, and then if you're a sports fan, especially, and your players, you can just get all this view at a glance and then start diving into their cards specifically. If you want to, like, if I wanted to look at Yordan Alvarez, I click on this and all of a sudden I'm like, okay, sweet. Now I can kind of visualize and see, here's all of his cards. So
I've been reading different kind of investment type stuff, especially with everything down. We've talked about it, like everything is pretty much down across the board, asset stuff. One thing that was interesting is a couple of different things where Mr. Wonderful is talking about crypto, because crypto is down, 70, 80, 90%, a lot of it. Antonio Brown just popped in.
I mean, look,
is this the Hobby Box guy with the
there's only one person I know that has that avatar.
Boris? Damn it, Boris.
That's the Hobby Box. That's Boris, who it was now it has rebranded to Antonio Brown with the same avatar. But you know what? I'll take the $10.
I thought
my Colombian girl likes gin and tonics, and those cost $25 a piece.
How the mighty have fallen, Boris. No, actually,
but I think that's a compliment. I think it started off rough, but I think it's a compliment.
It might be a backhanded compliment, but either way.
But it still ends on a compliment.
What I was saying is there's been a lot of talk about buying baskets of stuff. And it's kind of like everyone is always focused in zeroing in on like, oh, the one player that you missed on. And I was reading this one thing where it was like art collectors, art dealers would buy a bunch of different artists. They would buy like 20, 30 different artists, all their different stuff. They only needed one to be Picasso. So like the one Picasso made up for the 29, 30, whatever, ones that they missed, the duds. And the same thing goes in a lot of different spaces. You have a huge money in crypto where it's like one of these is going to work, the other 50 are not, but I'll have the one and I'll be fine. So I think that's kind of an interesting, and I've seen that across a bunch of different asset classes. I think that's where the big money ends up winning. I think that's really how they don't miss, is they've just got it spread out. They've got enough money spread out across the stuff, and they just hit it. They hit on the one or two that work.
Yeah. No, that's exactly the case. When you start talking about venture capital and like what people are always trying to hit that unicorn, right? So they'll throw $1 million into this, through $1 million into a bunch of things, expecting that most of those things are going to go belly up or they're not going to get their money back, but waiting for the one that's going to become $1 billion company. And that's, depending on what your approach is with cards and if what you're trying to do. I generally talk a lot about diversifying. It's good risk mitigation, but there's nothing saying you can't just go all in on a player. Like if you're really high on somebody and you don't care if you lose the money, you could blow it up. Like if you had done that, Erling Haaland right now is going absolutely crazy. Somebody put that in the comments earlier. Kelly did mention him like 2 years ago when she filled in on an episode for Jeff. And that guy's on another planet right now. I mean, playing like nobody we've honestly ever seen. So yeah, there's the little, you're good at pulling these notes up fast.
That's because I'm never fully paying attention to the guest. I'm just looking in the comments section.
That's what I figured. Just more engaged with the chat. But you could do that. Now, I'm going to use a perfect example here. One of the guys that I was the highest on this last year, and Brad, you'll like this because I bought 2 of his cards from you, is Kevin Durant. I saw Kevin Durant's prices down 30% 6 months ago from the preceding 6 months. And I saw what Kevin Durant did where he was a big toe away from probably winning an NBA championship, not Giannis, which I'm happy about because I'm a massive Giannis fan. I was like, they're going to come back and he's going to be dominant and he's going to be playing with a chip on his shoulder and people are going to love this guy and he's going to go crazy back up. They didn't, and he wasn't good, and the team fell apart. I mean, he was good. The team wasn't good, and his prices have gone down like another 25, 30%. He's down like 58% in the last year, and I put more money into Kevin Durant than any other single player for sure, but I did diversify. So it didn't totally crush me, but I lost, a couple grand on Kevin Durant cards because I was just convinced this guy's going to rebound. Now he's like a jerk. People don't know if they really even like him. He's going to have to do something crazy the rest of his career to even rebound and be somebody that people really want to collect for the long term. So that's the risk that you take if you go too hard into one player. And why I think I'm a little more in favor of spreading it out.
So the one thing that always intrigued me and it's kind of frustrating in a sense is that you can, like, for example, I invested in Aaron Judge when he was injured in, I think it was late 2020 or so. I just saw really low prices and I saw, okay, home run hitter, which everyone that talks baseball said, you just want home run hitters. You don't want guys that have a high batting average or are good playing shortstop or whatever. They need to be home run hitters. Okay, well, I saw Aaron Judge is a home run hitter.
Listening to forget about if they're good at baseball. Just if they hit a home run.
Because in terms of the cards,
I understand. I understand.
You know what I mean? And then also it's like, well, and also baseball collectors, it's not really the same flipping market as basketball or football. So it's just like, okay, you want home run hitters. And I saw Aaron Judge had the top jersey sales in 2020 or like top 2 or 3. And it was the Yankees who gets a lot. Yankees have money to spend. And you just know that. You don't have to be a baseball fan. You just know the Yankees spend a lot of money. There's no salary cap. And the Yankees are a top franchise in terms of attention and media. So I was like, okay, his prices are really far down. Let me just buy his cards. The big thing, though, is I've been selling them, and I sold some of them for a good profit. Others I broke even. I sold at break even just to get rid of them. But the thing that goes a step further is that you can get the player right. But what cards and what grades? Like, okay, you could say, all right, BGS 9.5 is pretty safe, but really PSA 10 is the safest in terms of just like easy to understand that it's respected in the hobby. But then it's like, well, now I have 800 Aaron Judge cards to buy, and I wish I would have just bought one Aaron Judge card that was worth $2,000 versus 15 that were worth 150 or whatever, because like now the Topps Chrome rookie isn't very desirable. And so I sold the Topps Chrome refractor for a little bit of a profit. But if I had a rookie auto, if I put all my money, the same equivalent amount of money, but into one card that had an autograph, it was a rare rookie, it was serial numbered, it probably would have tripled in value versus all these other lesser cards. So when you take a look at the player indexes, and you say, all right, I want to invest in this player. I want to buy this player because they're 40% down and I really believe in this player. What's the next step to determine what actual cards you feel would go up the most if the player performs?
Yeah, this is where there's no substitute for experience and knowledge of a specific segment of the hobby. One of the things we talked about last week on Cards on the Table, our last segment on that was specifically about this topic. It was about what's going to happen, or what do you do when you're getting into the hobby? Like, how do you get engaged? How do you decide where to start? And I always say start focused and start with the sport you know best or you're most passionate about, and then start learning which products are the most respected. And it's going to be different from baseball to basketball to football and onward. Every product, like Contenders, is massive in football. It's not nearly as big in basketball, even though both products are in Panini and come out and are priced similarly. like the contenders autos in football are what you want. Obviously you have the whole Bowman phenomenon in baseball and debates about Topps flagship and which one is better there. But you have to like dive into that and do that research. That's why we did that entire SCI University series where we talked about those different products. What a lot of people, one of the things that I think doesn't get talked about enough, but should be talked about, and I do know and believe that Fanatics is talking about this a lot, is how to meet market demand for product. And that's a whole separate conversation about what demand really entails, from breaking to actually end retail consumer to card shops and everything else. But the demand for total product versus like the secondary demand and stayability of certain products over time. Even when you have flagship products and key things that people focus on, everything else that comes out that's ancillary ends up becoming noise that works either synergistically with that flagship product or like to its detriment by pulling money and eyes away from it and confusing people. And it is very, very confusing. Like it's really nice if you go on ComC or into Market Movers or onto Beckett or one of these other websites and you see everything that's there, because it gives you an opportunity to explore. But it's also completely overwhelming if you have no idea what you're looking at. And that's where a lot of people, almost everybody getting back into the hobby or into it for the first time, makes a lot of mistakes. They see a patch card, they see an auto, they see something, they think this has got to be a good card. Oh, this card's serial number to 49. It must be amazing. Not necessarily if it came out of Illusions, when people don't really care about Illusions other than the first month that it's out on the market. So there is a lot in there that I would just say find somebody who knows the sports, find a good YouTube content creator who focuses on things. Like Scotty B Cards has an awesome channel if you're into baseball cards. He does a really good job. A lot of what he talks about is similar to things that I talk about on Market Movers, channel, but it's focused on baseball. There's other channels like that for different sports. And I think that's the approach you have to take, is kind of be a student, figure out what is popular, sort of buy into that group consensus, and not try to get too crafty. Over time, you might start getting little insights going, like when Panini Photogenic came out this year as a product, I was like, I bet people are really going to like this because they're starved for really good photography and Panini products. And sure enough, that product has taken off and the wax prices have gone up and a lot of things like that. So you'll start to get that intuition and pick up. But initially, if you don't know the sport, I always just say, figure out what the flagship stuff is and stick to it.
I mean, I felt like the Topps Chrome for baseball was pretty flagship. It was like, that was solid. It was just buying it was the mid-tier stuff that kind of disappeared when a lot of the flippers left, which kind of leaves it so, if you're in that higher tier, then it's like you're accepted and the cards can really go up when a player performs well. But anyway, it's a crazy hobby just because it's not just picking a stock, like saying, hey, I think Tesla's down, let me buy Tesla. It's like saying, all right, Tesla has 900 different options to buy in at. Which 4 or 10 are going to be the best ways to buy in on Tesla? So it's just a very fascinating thing if you want to buy to flip and make a profit that way, because there isn't like really a science and it's evolving all the time.
Yeah.
One thing I did want to ask, I know, Dustin, we want to talk about the future and what we're seeing in the future, but what are you seeing in terms of sealed wax? Because there was like a phase where sealed wax was just like, this is the best investment, can't go wrong, prices keep going up, breakers will always break, and there's a lot of validity to those arguments. But what's the data showing in terms of sealed wax right now?
A lot of sealed wax product has normalized too. It's come down, although not as much in most cases as like individual cards. So we've seen a lot of wax prices come down. There's always going to be that correlation to the players and the cards contained in the wax compared to compared to the product itself. But as Jeff says all the time and talks about, the sealed wax is going to be like a mutual fund of everything that's in there. So if you have a really strong rookie class, you have chase cards, you have a highly sought after parallel or insert or something like that, it's going to hold value. But wax has come down, just like everything else, just not necessarily as much. And Topps Chrome, to your point, the most recent Topps Chrome has come down somewhat significantly from its initial release price. Once people realized that the short printed rookies weren't actually inserted into the hobby boxes, that had a huge impact on the prices, and those came down significantly. So even the flagship products aren't without their issues from time to time.
Dustin, why don't you say something?
I was just thinking about Arch Manning in a Saints uniform in 2025 or 2026. All the hoopla around like the Justin Herberts and the Joe Burrows. Man, when Arch Manning comes out and he's playing for the Saints, his grandfather Archie, the legend, man, that's gonna be something.
Well, you'll definitely have that first overall pick. I know that.
Well, and that honestly, see, and that's where I do understand when people go nuts about new product and we're like, how did somebody pay X amount of dollars for this particular player or whatever? I would overspend on Arch Manning stuff. You know, if he played for the Saints, you know, if he was drafted, they trade up, they get him number 1 overall or whatever. I would go stupid bonkers and buy his card. So I get the craze. We always try to warn against it and all that stuff, but
I've been burned. So the Pistons, you know, for the first time, maybe ever, or for a long time, had the first overall draft pick last year, and they drafted Cade Cunningham, and he played really well, especially the second half of the season. I right now only own a couple of like base Donruss and Hoops Cade Cunningham cards that aren't graded that I just pulled from some blasters, and nothing else of Cade. And I like the guy a lot. I'm like in wait and see mode because the prices are still so high right now. If he doesn't transcend from 17, 5 and 5 to like 28, you know, 8 and 8, like LeBron type numbers, there's nowhere for his prices to go but down. And I got completely smoked on like 10 different Sekou Doumbouya cards a few years ago when I was really enthusiastic about the Pistons having a good player and somebody that I thought could break out. And instead I had a like orange ice card that went from like $200 down to like $6. I mean, it was like the total free fall. So
I hope Jeff pays you well.
I looked at, thankfully I've made, you know, some good decisions with the cards too. And I've done all right in that regard, but you miss on things. It's interesting when you talk about Arch Manning, like Trevor Lawrence was that guy. Trevor Lawrence was the guy that literally was like, can't miss guy, winning national championships year over year in the playoff, number 1 draft pick. And then he has a terrible year last year. He's playing pretty well this year. You know, remains to be seen what's going to happen with him. The last guy I remember before that who was like that was Andrew Luck. And Andrew Luck was as advertised and then just got his bell rung and got injured a lot and like was like, I don't want to die, so I'm going to not do this anymore, and got out of the league. Football makes me really nervous for that reason. Just like the long-term like ability. We're not going to have Tom Brady's anymore, like for the long term.
Well, and speaking of that, I mean, the 3 quarterbacks that I'm buying right now, and don't buy these. I don't want anyone to buy these.
More Jameis Winston.
I'm trying to buy the damn cards. So don't buy the cards. All right. The 3, because everyone's talking about Herbert, Burrow, and all the, you know, the young QBs and Trevor Lawrence. I'm buying Breeze, Aaron Rodgers, and Tom Brady.
Yeah.
Tom Brady I already have a lot of Tom Brady stuff, but I'm paying really close attention to see what happens. I mean, if his season falls apart, his marriage falls apart, whatever, I'm not the only one. Everyone's looking for Tom Brady stuff. Yeah. But if that stuff takes a big dive, if that stuff takes a big dive, I mean, but those are 3. I look at Rodgers. Rodgers is one of those guys. He plays for the Packers, so he's always going to be relevant. For me, like Breeze is that guy for a Saints fan, but Breeze will never get the respect that Rodgers gets, even if they each have 1 Super Bowl. Quiet, Brad, quiet. Even though that they have, you know, same amount of Super Bowls, maybe Rodgers does get over the hump. But the reality is that he is always going to be looked fondly on unless, you know, some weird ass welfare scandal or something hits him in 20 years. But, you know, I mean, he's always going to be that guy. He's always going to be a guy that, you know, is just an amazing athlete. He still has probably a few years left in him if he can stay healthy, you know. So, but those are 3 guys where it's like, if you look at the stats and you look at the young players coming up, it's going to be a solid decade before any of these new guys is even getting close to these yardage and touchdown numbers that Brady, Breeze, and Rodgers are doing.
Yep.
And Peyton Manning is the other guy, but everybody's already on Peyton Manning. You know, if you hear
the most.
Well, I guess what I'm saying though is there's a lot of Peyton Manning collectors out there. There's already a lot of Peyton Manning price action. I'm not saying that he's overpriced or anything. Peyton Manning, I think, is also one of those guys that is, you know, he's good value. But for me, I just like those 3. So that's where I'm focused.
When I saw Trey Lance cards, you know, selling for like 15 times more than the most expensive Peyton Manning card ever on PWCC, it was like, what are we doing? what are we doing? And people forget. I mean, I'm confused about Peyton Manning's prices because he's hilarious. He's got a great personality. He's still doing things that are relevant. And it wasn't until like 5 years ago when he was like basically done and Brady just decided to keep winning Super Bowls that there was a very active and open debate about who was really the greatest quarterback of all time. So this is a guy, like, you're talking about an era when it's been pretty special quarterback wise with Breeze, Rodgers, Manning, obviously Brady. And I don't know, like right now, I'm a huge Patrick Mahomes fan, and I think he's the guy of this era that's got all the potential to keep going. But outside of that, the staying power, I don't know. You just have to wait and see. But it's hard to imagine that we're going to end up with like
well, the one thing too is if you look at all four of these guys outside of maybe Rodgers, but really for the most part, all four of these guys are pocket passers. If you look at Mahomes, if you look at Lamar Jackson, if you look at all the new guys coming out, I guess Lawrence is kind of more of a pocket passer, but Mahomes is to me, he's the most exciting QB in football, but he runs though. I mean, he takes shots, and it's like, are these guys going to play 20 years? And even if they do have the extra game that, the extra game to get the stats and all that these guys don't have, I still think it's going to be tough for them to touch I mean, they can definitely get those records, but they're going to have to play 20 years, and we'll see. I mean, look, can Lamar Jackson play like that for 20 years? Maybe, but I don't know.
Yeah. I heard a stat that like Mahomes, for as much as he's done so far and as good as he's been, and he's broken every record to this point in his career, he's going to have to play until he's 39 at this pace to catch Tom Brady in yards. Like, I don't know. To your point, I don't know if that can happen. So we'll see.
Yeah. Real quick, I know it's about 7:00 here on the West Coast. I look like I'm in the Blair Witch Project because the sun went down, and it's going down earlier and earlier on my here on the West Coast. And so, all right, boiling all your knowledge based on the data, based on the conversations that you're having in terms of what's going on in your mind, what are 3 predictions or things that I'm going to ask for a lot? 3 predictions or at least things that wouldn't surprise you by, let's just say, summer of next year. So there's some time, but things that you're like, I really see this picking up with the economy, with this company, with this movement, just things that maybe the casual collector wouldn't really pick up on, but someone that's in your position where you're talking about this stuff so much, you have so many conversations and rumors and whatever that you would not be surprised about, let's just say, by summer of next year.
So first thing is I definitely expect a Panini Fanatics announcement. I think most people do. That's probably not like an earth-shattering thing to say, but I do expect that. I'm just gonna say this. I am very interested to see what continues to happen with the emergence of computer vision grading companies and computer vision grading. Tag came out. Jeremy Lee joined Tag. They did an entire series. What they're putting out looks really compelling and thoughtful. And it's something I've been talking about for 3 years now a lot, is that I think the need for grading has to get away from human subjectivity and more toward objectivity, which only a computer can do, and it should be repeatable. And that was what Tag unpacked a lot in their demonstrations, and they claim they can do. So I'm sure there are going to be people who test them on that, who send a card, who crack it, who resubmit it and try to test the veracity of those statements. Obviously, we saw this, is it Arena Club or Arena Group or whatever coming out, Jeter backed. This is what I'm talking about, with a lot of money coming in and a lot of big names. And all of a sudden you're like, everybody's like, Derek Jeter, that's really cool, whatever. I don't know if what they're doing is going to be sticky. And then how is PSA, the incumbent, the behemoth, going to respond to that? That's what I don't know. And so all these companies have made moves. There's obviously a lot of money in that space. The big question mark for me is like, who can really stick over time versus who can't? I wouldn't be surprised to see one of these bigger 4, let's say the big 3 companies, end up falling off just by pressure or some missteps along the way and losing a fan base or just being outright disrupted by these other companies. Oh, there's a name I haven't seen in a long time.
What's up, Chris?
Still around.
Just was able to make it for the last 30 seconds. How lovely.
Good. So that's 2 predictions. I'm gonna say prediction 1 is Panini Fanatics. Prediction 2 is computer vision grading continuing to emerge as something very viable and needed in the grading space. And with that, I think perhaps the ease of access of grading with computer vision. Tag and other companies, I think, have talked about wanting to get like grading machines like into Walmarts and stuff. That seems like an audacious goal. I don't know if that's possible or what would happen, but that's something I'd watch. Third thing, I'm going to go with your boy, Brett Oppenheim, and say that I think vintage soccer is should be due for more attention if soccer cards get marketed more by Fanatics and they can get more of that stuff promoted, or if Panini keeps doing it, or whomever. And I mentioned that last week on a video, but it's like every vintage soccer guy not named Pele and Maradona should be like, their prices are just really low for how great they were, being top 10, top 12 athletes and having almost no cards in existence. So that's a piece that I would be looking at and studying, especially if you are a soccer fan and you're interested in that. Like, the challenges, you kind of have to know what you're looking at, because some of this stuff is really niche and low pop, native to Italy, native to Brazil, native to Netherlands, to Germany, really, really rare niche stuff. So if that's something that piques your interest and you're kind of a researcher, that's where I'd be spending a lot of time personally.
Awesome, man. Dustin, anything you want to end with?
Well, when T-Pott was talking about soccer, I was just thinking going back to 1989, when really, I mean, it was baseball cards were really what anyone gave a damn about in 1989. And then all of a sudden, Beckett Football Magazine came out, Beckett Basketball Magazine comes out, Michael Jordan starts to ascend. You know, you have Barry Sanders as a rookie in 89. People started to care more on that stuff. And you just kind of see where that's come over. Now, granted, it's taken time. It's not like it happened overnight. But I can see, I think there's a lot of things that, you know, kind of niche things now that can kind of, you know, as this thing rolls on 10, 20, 30 years down the road, will be really fun to watch.
Any other non-sports, or not a traditional sport, but another segment that you wouldn't be surprised is way bigger by summer of next year, or let's just say by the end of next year, whether it's UFC, I don't know, Olympics, boxing, Magic the Gathering, something like that. Anything else that you see based on the data, or just maybe rumblings you're hearing of that you say, well, this would make a lot of sense if this segment grows?
Well, I do think UFC is one that's a sport that's growing in popularity overall. It continues to grow in popularity, and it's a superstar driven sport, which is what basketball has working in its favor, with like clearly focused superstars that people go after. UFC's got a ton of people in the UFC and in the lower levels who fight, but everybody's chasing to get to that top spot, and they have to have a lot of things come together to be popular. So you got to have the charisma, the moxie, the personality, the fighting style, and the record to get the eyes on you. If somebody can do that, I think those athletes' prices will certainly go up a lot. Other thing I'm just looking at is like how pop culture and the emergence of music and pop culture cards and things. I'm a huge Tolkien fan, and like Lord of the Rings and Rings of Power and everything that's out right now. I don't know if that's going to continue and they're going to try to like keep capitalizing on that franchise or not, but I'd personally love to see like some really cool LOTR cards come out or something. But pop culture cards in general, obviously the Zero Cool brand and the emergence of that, what's that gonna look like? But I think we could see some things in that space move. And it's like it's not a separate audience. I know like each of us has kind of our passion project, but I do think there's like a huge portion of people who aren't into sports cards at all who could get into that space, and that'd be really interesting.
Well, and I've talked about it, and I think Brad, we had talked about this. I mean, if there was on-card autos going back to, you know, Jerry Seinfeld, back when Seinfeld was the #1 show in America, and you had if you had card sets and you had relics and you had on-card autos or whatever, I think those cards would be expensive today. I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but same with Friends or any of these shows over time.
Anything that plays nostalgia, absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, I think that stuff, if it existed, people would be all over it.
Yeah. What if there was a product that came out that was like the 90s Billboard Top 100 or something, and you had like something with album covers and
one hit wonders or like one hit one, like now that's what I call music volume 446, but like you turn that into card. But I mean, but it's also like,
you want your Alanis Morissette auto with like a piece of her long hair.
Hootie on the Blowfish. I mean,
I've got my blur on.
You got your blur on.
I'll turn off my blur. Hold on.
Oh, I thought that was just your video quality.
Oh shoot. But, virtual background.
Okay, well, while you figure that out, I mean, I was thinking what they could do now if
for
they can.
Damien there in the chat. Jim Hopper Autos.
I don't even know who that is.
It's Stranger Things. He said Stranger Things, so I'm responding to him.
So I mean, okay, I don't want to go down like another rabbit hole, but one thing I mentioned when we were talking to Brian Gray of Leaf is up and coming comedians, right? We don't know who's going to be the next Kevin Hart, the next Dave Chappelle, but we have guys and ladies that are early in their career with autos and with rookie cards, and then we don't know 5 years from now which ones are going to be the big stars that are in the movies and which ones are just going to be still touring and no one really knows about. Something I could see now that might actually be feasible with Fanatics and Zero Cool is like a best of Netflix, like Netflix originals 2022. And it's all the Netflix movies, all the Netflix shows where they can easily get the rights because it's not another studio head. It's not signing contracts with 5 different parties, but instead maybe it's like best of Netflix originals 2022. And then maybe there's a movie star that gets their first break in one of those, what's a Cobra Kai or something, and then that one kid turns out to be like the next Ryan Reynolds or the next Matthew McConaughey or something. But I think
Brad's buying up all the Amber Heard autos. He's cornering that market.
I mean, well, she might be signing a lot because she needs the money.
She needs the cash.
I'm just saying this. Look, in terms of how much time do I watch sports versus non-sports, I spend a lot more time watching non-sports because I usually just watch my team. And I can watch Netflix. I can watch Step Brothers 50 times. I can watch Will Ferrell movies over and over again. How I Met Your Mother, Entourage, stuff like that on repeat. So definitely looking forward to that. But
how much would you pay for a autographed on-card auto of a card of me dressed up like Ron Burgundy?
Of you dressed up like Ron Burgundy?
That's what I'm sharing my screen right now. I don't know if you can see that. I don't know.
So,
can you see it, or do I have to share it?
I do see it. That's interesting.
This is circa 2009, and Anchorman was all the rage. You were talking about Halloween before we jumped on, and this was my best Halloween look.
Okay. All right. So
do you have yours? Can you do yours?
I'm going to bring up mine, and you guys in the chat, let me know which one is better. Now they call T-Pott. What's your nickname? What do people call you besides T-Pott? How do they refer to you?
Ty? I don't know.
No. The other thing.
Professor X. Yeah.
Professor
right.
X. So check this out. Let me see if I have this, and let me see if I can pull this up. And there's nothing inappropriate on here first. That's more important. Okay. So let's see. Entire screen. Okay. Share.
Close those other tabs first, Brad.
So do you see this picture?
I see.
Let me see if I can.
This is 2013.
This is 2011. You see that? Okay, that was me as Professor X, fake bald. Had the X on the wheelchair I got from my mom who works at a hospital. That's a solid crew, right?
Wow,
that's a lot of effort. Yeah, solid crew.
It looks like everybody else's was more effort.
That was weeks of planning. Put that.
It was weeks. It was the most effort we ever put in. But anyway,
into anything in your lives.
Yeah, I failed so many tests and classes prepping for that Halloween. Anyway, guys, thanks so much for joining us. T-Pott, what's your handle on Instagram? What's the best way to watch your content and get a hold of you?
At Drummond Card Collector, all one word, Drummond Card Collector. That's the one I'm usually most active on, although I've been a little less active on IG lately. But otherwise follow us over on our Sports Card Investor and Market Movers YouTube channels. And if you're interested, I'm sure you guys have coupon codes on your channels, so I'll let them check those out to get into Market Movers. Like you said, $10 a month starting out. And I think it's really valuable to anybody. So hopefully everybody can dig in and enjoy.
Awesome, guys. Well, thanks so much. Thank you, Tyler. And please
Yeah,
leave a like. If you like Tyler, leave a like. If you didn't like Tyler, leave a like. And see you guys next time. I guess in 2 weeks.
All right.